Good day, learners! Welcome to another exciting learning session. I am Teacher Hill, your teacher broadcaster in statistics and probability. Do you know that our lesson today is very important? It is about hypothesis testing. Are you ready? Do you have any idea what hypothesis testing is? If not, don't worry. This lesson is made simple for you as ALS learners, so you can easily understand the concepts. Our lesson is based in the most essential learning competency. Illustrates null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, level of significance, rejection region, and types of errors in hypothesis testing. From these MELCs, you will learn the following. Identify the null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, level of significance, rejection region, and types of errors in hypothesis testing. Respond confidently to the quick wrap-up quiz and interactive questions using learned concepts. Appreciate the importance of using evidence-based decisions in academic tasks and everyday situations. Let us begin with the first part of your lesson. Have you ever wondered if something is true or just your guess? For example, do you think your quiz scores increased because you studied using a new study method or reviewed your notes regularly? These kinds of questions are similar to a hypothesis. Now, do you remember experiencing something like this? Very good, learners! You are now thinking about your own experiences of guessing or predicting. As learners, we often make decisions based on our observations. Hypothesis testing works the same way. We check if a claim is supported by data. Hypothesis testing is a way to check whether a statement or claim is true or using data. Let us begin with the two main types of hypothesis. First one, null hypothesis. It is denoted by the symbol H0. It says there is no change, no effect, or no difference. Example, there is no increase in the math scores of all students after studying for the test. Second, alternative hypothesis, H1. It says there is a change or effect. Example, the math scores of all students increased after studying for the test. Do you understand? Let me ask, what is the difference between null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis? Correct! The null hypothesis says there is no effect, while the alternative hypothesis says there is an effect. These two guide the entire hypothesis testing process. Next, let's talk about the level of significance, often denoted as alpha. This represents the probability of making a mistake when rejecting the null hypothesis. In other words, it's the likelihood that we incorrectly conclude there's an effect when there isn't one. The most common threshold we use is 0.05 or 5%, meaning we accept a 5% chance of making this error. The rejection region is just the area where we have strong enough evidence to say the null hypothesis is probably wrong. If the test statistic lands in this region, we reject the null hypothesis. For example, if the test statistic is higher than the critical value, it's in the rejection region, and we conclude there's something significant going on. The common value is 0.05 or 5%. Now, let's talk about the types of error. Type 1 error. This happens when we reject the null hypothesis and believe that studying improves students' math scores even though it didn't. In other words, we think there's an effect when there really isn't. Type 2 error. This occurs when we fail to reject the null hypothesis, when it's actually false. So, we wrongly believe that studying had no effect on math scores, even though studying did help improve the scores. In hypothesis testing, we must examine data carefully. A wrong conclusion may affect how we teach and how you learn. Let us now look at an example. Let's say you want to know if your score improved because you reviewed online. This is our null hypothesis. There is no increase in your score after reviewing online. Our alternative hypothesis, there is an increase in your score after reviewing online. Now, you would test this by comparing your quiz results to see if there's enough evidence to support the idea that reviewing online made a difference. If your test result falls into the rejection region, you would reject the null hypothesis, meaning there's strong enough evidence to say that your score improved. But if your result doesn't fall in the rejection region, you would accept null hypothesis, meaning there's no clear evidence to say your score improved after reviewing online. In this lesson, we're focusing on understanding the concepts behind hypothesis testing. The actual process of solving the statistics, such as calculating test values and identifying the rejection region, will be covered in a future lesson. Stay tuned for that. Moreover, here are the steps in hypothesis testing. First, create the null and alternative hypothesis. Second, choose the level of significance. Third, identify the rejection region. Fourth, gather data. And the last one, make a decision. As us learners, hypothesis testing helps you understand why data and evidence matter. Now that we've learned the basics, let's have a short quiz to check your understanding. Question number 1. If the null hypothesis says no effect, what does the alternative hypothesis say? Correct. It says there is an effect or a change. Question number 2. What do we call the area where we reject the null hypothesis? Correct. That's called the rejection region. Question number 3. If you reject the null hypothesis, even though it is actually true, what type of error is that? Correct. That's a type 1 error. Great. If you got this right, you're on your way to understanding hypothesis testing. Remember, next time, we'll learn how to actually calculate and test this hypothesis using statistics. In ALS, we use your quizzes and activities to see if our teaching methods are effective. This is why hypothesis testing is useful. You become more analytical and evidence-based. In daily life, we ask, is my guess correct? Is it supported by facts? When you learn to evaluate information, you become wiser in decision-making. Always be careful with information online, especially on social media. These skills prepare you for higher learning and real-life situations. Remember, we use hypotheses every day. Be observant and base your decision on evidence. Watch out for the next lessons in statistics and probability. Once again, this is Teacher Hill reminding you, stay curious and keep questioning the data around you. Every number has a story, and it's up to you to uncover it. Keep learning, keep exploring, and until next time, goodbye, learners!